if you're tense in your body, it's probably because you're tense in your mind.
Yeah.
And if you want to be relaxed in your mind, you can reverse engineer it. If you stand with a power pose, with your hands on your hips, or even like Superman, for 2 minutes, your testosterone goes up. What's gonna stop you? What can possibly get in the way of you and your genuine dream? If you let anything get in the way, that's pathetic. Business is one of the most spiritual practices you can do. When you face uncertainty, how do you get through uncertainty? And by surrendering to it.
Yeah.
Allowing it to be there, like accepting it, right? Not many people can do that, man. You can socialize your way into a high quality social circle, which I've done multiple times, but you can also pay your way into it. And I think that's the easiest way to do it.
You prefer that one?
It's a bit easy. I haven't had anybody ask me that on a podcast before. I like that. I respect that a lot.
All right. Today, I'm going to try to pick your brain on communication, specifically for business, marketing, and sales. So thanks for the invite.
Thank you, my friend. Pleasure to be here.
It was quite funny that I actually popped up in your DMs because you have 300K plus followers and I sent you a message and you actually exactly saw it. How did that happen?
Yeah, literally. So I'm not in the DMs often at all. Literally maybe 10 minutes a day, just checking messages, replying to some messages. And when I opened my DMs, I saw you message me at that exact time. So I was like, I checked your profile. I'm like, hey, I know Robin. So I replied. It was pretty good timing.
Yeah, that was good timing. So yeah, why I invited you is because you are doing a lot of communication stuff right now, right? And it's working because you're going viral on Instagram and you're growing there. So I want to kind of figure out like if there are some lessons that we could learn from your communication techniques, strategies, mindset, and translate that to how would you record ads, how would you record videos. But before we do that, let's first get into the frameworks that you use a little bit, because I've done some research and you kind of talk about like, hey, the mindset part and then the tactical part, right?
Yep.
So what I always feel like is if you're recording ads or videos, sometimes you get into flow state. And I think that's an interesting part to start, because I think you talk about surrender and like how you get into the right state before you would start recording. Yep. So this time it's not a crazy date with maybe your future wife, but let's say, you know, you're going to start recording YouTube videos or YouTube ads for the first time. What would you do from a mindset perspective, like before, to make sure that you're like getting into the flow state to be your best communicating self?
That's a great question. So that is spot on actually, because when I record content, I don't script anything. I've tried it and it only comes across as robotic. And I've noticed that the views take a hit as well. I get less views when my videos are perfectly scripted. It doesn't work well because people are missing that energy, that spontaneity. It's usually the videos where I'm in the flow state, as you put it, and I'm just naturally talking as if I'm talking to you, talking to a friend. And sometimes I might even make a mistake while speaking, while recording the video. There was one video actually, it was pretty funny. I poked my eye by accident with my glasses. I was holding my glass, I poked my eye and I didn't cut. I said, I just poked my eye and I continued talking. And that video got around 100,000 views, I think. It did really, really well. People loved it. So what I do, to answer your question, is I get into state. How do you get into state? A couple of ways. You can start off by meditating, just to really clear your mind, because the best communication is, as I said, spontaneous, and that makes it authentic. So you can communicate from that place that is just natural. You don't need to think about what you're going to say. You already have all the knowledge anyway. If somebody's watching this and they are an expert in their field, whether it's communication skills, business, even fitness, you're a coach or consultant or business owner because you already have knowledge in that field, correct?
Hopefully, yeah.
Hopefully, right? These days, you never know. You already have the knowledge.
Yeah.
So if somebody would ask you a question, Robin, can you give me advice on the marketing side of these things, the business side of these things? Because you already have the knowledge, you don't need to script it. You just say it confidently and naturally. It just comes to you. Same thing when you're recording a video. What I do, my approach is, and anybody can try this, is I'm not going to write a script, but I might write dot points on my phone just in the notes app. A question, for example, how to overcome anxiety in group settings, or how to handle disrespect, how to be more assertive without being aggressive. And then I look at the camera and then I literally just start answering the question. So here's what to do to be more assertive without coming across as aggressive. First, you want to be polite and you want to be respectful. And at the same time, you want your body language to communicate collaboration rather than accusation. See, I literally just said that off the top of my head because I know my stuff already. And if
Yeah.
you're recording content, it should be easy. So it will be a little bit awkward or challenging if you're not used to recording videos. I know a lot of people, they can't even hear the sound of their own voice on videos. They hate it, let alone watching themselves, rewatching themselves. So my advice to those would be get over that hump of awkwardness. It'll pass. That's just your ego getting in the way anyway. So practice a few times. When I first started making content, which eventually went viral, and this will happen to anybody who's consistent and listens to the feedback that they're given as well from the market and their audiences, they'll get better and better. When I first started, I would record a video. I would have an idea, for example, 3 steps to a great meditation session.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say it. It would be about a minute and a half, 2 minutes. I'm like, that's too long, too wordy, and I use too many filler words. Let me go again. Here are 3 steps to have an amazing meditation session. And then that one becomes a bit better. And then the third take, boom, that's the one, very natural. And by that time, I've warmed up as well. No script, just answering the same question with a good hook. For example, the video that really went viral for me, 9 million views, was here's how to handle it when somebody outright disrespects you. That's a strong hook.
Yeah.
Here's what to do when your boss gives you too much work. Here's how to speak to your boss when you disagree with them without getting fired. That's another strong hook. And then I just say whatever I want. With practice, you'll become better and better at recording content, no matter what it is, whether it's an ad or an Instagram reel.
Got it. So if I'm dissecting what you just said, you first mentioned meditation, and then afterwards you mentioned just like practicing. That's also one of those things. Yes, it's annoying to do it multiple times, but you know, that works. But let's go back a little bit there, because for you it's probably super like natural to do a meditation. Or what will you specifically do? Let's say I have 10 minutes until I need to record. What kind of meditation would you do? What would you do in those 10 minutes?
Nice. So you want super practical.
Yeah, so this is,
step.
I sometimes call it the marketing nerd podcast as a joke. So yeah, I'm just curious what you would do. Yeah.
I like it. All right. Well, I'll give you step-by-step instructions as I would to a client who creates content. The meditation, I don't want you to focus on that too much because that's optional. The whole purpose of the meditation is literally just to get you out of your head so you're not overthinking. So if you find yourself overthinking, the meditation isn't anything special. Do a 10-minute guided meditation that you find on YouTube, or if you already know how to meditate, just do it for 10 minutes just to clear your head. When you turn on the camera and you start speaking, make sure that you loosen your body. So roll your shoulders back, breathe deep, stretch your neck a little bit, make sure you're loose in your physiology. Turn the camera on and look into the lens as if you're looking into somebody's eye, as if it's eye contact. And imagine that you're talking to a friend or a client, because usually the same level of comfort you have talking to a friend you should have with a client anyway. So if you're speaking to a client, they're asking you a question, you're going to be pretty comfortable and confident answering them, right? They're coming to you for expertise. Same thing. It's like, hey, here's how to do this thing. First, you want to do this. Then you want to do that. The next step is don't rush. Allow yourself to pause. Something that has allowed me to stand out on social media, I know this for a fact, is I don't rush my reels. Meaning I don't even do quick cuts. You know how everybody cuts all the pauses?
Yes.
Just blah, 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 blah. They think that will go viral, and some videos do go viral, but people want to see a human behind it as well. My most viral reels, there's no cuts, and I pause for even 2 seconds at a time. And people still watch the whole reel. You can tell how much people have watched. So don't rush. Imagine you're talking to a friend or a client, and just keep doing more and more takes until it becomes natural.
Got it. I mean, I think also how you're speaking a little bit is like somehow hypnotic. So it's kind of like when you do the pause, it's like it fits in the flow. And you're also, I guess, not targeting like dopamine addicted TikTok
That's true.
brainies. So those people appreciate the no crazy edits.
Very true.
even more. So that's cool. Okay, so those are the things that you really are a firm believer in. Like, hey, you just have to do it like a bunch of times. You don't use any scripts yourself, only the bullet points you mentioned, right?
Yeah, and it's not merely practice makes perfect, Robin. That's not what I'm trying to push here. What I'm encouraging is practice speaking off the cuff while being as relaxed in your body, very physically speaking. I'm talking literally, your throat isn't tight, your jaw's relaxed, even your facial expression. Because a lot of people, what they do is when they look at the camera and they're speaking, they have like a bit of a social media face or a social media voice as well. What I'm saying is practice being as natural as you possibly can while just having 10% more energy than you normally do, because you do need a bit of energy when you're making videos. Otherwise,
Yeah.
people get bored. So, how I speak on videos is definitely 10% more than how I normally do, but it's still authentic.
Yeah, and
You
come from a relaxed place, like really.
come from a relaxed place. Exactly.
No, that's interesting. I've never really thought about it, but that's also what Psycho Cybernetics. I don't know if you read the book.
No.
Talks a lot about. It's a lot about relaxation and then them focusing on your goal. It's funny that I kind of forgot that. I notice it sometimes that my jaw gets a little bit tight if I'm like too stressed from work, and then it doesn't work too well if I do video or talk. But that makes a lot of
Yeah.
sense to actually relax your body. It's such.
Because your physiology is a reflection of your psychology. So, if you're tense in your body, it's probably because you're tense in your mind.
Yeah.
And if you want to be relaxed in your mind, you can reverse engineer it. You can reverse the process so you can physically start very proactively relaxing your body, and your mind is going to follow, because the mind and the body are absolutely connected. And there's been multiple studies done on this. If you stand with a power pose with your hands on your hips, or even like Superman, for 2 minutes, your testosterone goes up. I forgot by how much percent, but it goes up by a good amount. And what's testosterone responsible for? Aggression, motivation, pushing forward. So the physiology, if you're not paying attention to your physiology while you're recording a video, you're just going to be spinning your wheels. You're not going to be moving anywhere.
Got it. And for now, is it like kind of like a subconscious thing that you do, or you're still actively checking yourself?
It's fairly subconscious now. It's a good question. But every now and then I do have to be pretty proactive about it. Maybe if I'm tired. And this is the same thing for meetings, by the way. If I have client meetings or a workshop that I'm hosting, if I notice that I'm tired that day or even stressed, something's on my mind, I very consciously loosen my physiology before the meeting or before recording a video. But it gets to a point where it's second nature.
Got it. So if you're stressed, if you're tired, then maybe you have to double check yourself. Or if things are not going your way, I guess, where like I'm just not feeling it, like 3 to 5 tries in a row, then maybe you go back into like, I like systems, right? So, and like process. So that would kind of be the system or like the process where like, hey,
It is.
I'm not feeling it. And then you go back to relaxation. And then from there on, you start building it.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's a simple bioenergetic exercise that you could do, which is opening your chest, having your arms behind you like this. This is what I get my clients to do. Looking up and just breathing very deep into your belly. 5 deep breaths like that, you'll feel different.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's also relaxing and opening up your whole
That's what it
rib
is.
cage and belly, I guess. Cool. All right. And you also already mentioned immediately like, oh, some good hooks. What are you doing nowadays to find good hooks?
It's a good question, man. Because this is something that I'm thinking about a lot lately.
That's why I thought that.
What I'm experimenting with, Robin, is not finding good hooks, but finding good topics and then using my brain to train my creativity to come up with a good hook for that topic. For example, I posted a reel yesterday, which did pretty well so far. And the topic was how to get respect wherever you go. And I thought, all right, that's what I'm writing about. What's going to be the hook? Here's the hook. I started to get respect wherever I went when I practiced these 3 very simple social changes.
Yeah.
It creates intrigue because I'm saying I'm creating a story. I'm saying people have started to treat me with respect wherever I go because of these 3 changes. Now, what are people going to think? What are these 3 changes? They're going to stick around. Something that I've noticed as well is people tend to stick around to negative hooks, provocative hooks, which I'll be completely honest, man, I don't like it. I don't like the fact that I have to trigger some negative emotion in order to create a good hook. As I said, the most viral video is here's what to do when somebody outright disrespects you. It's like, oh yeah. Yeah, everybody's thinking, I want to learn how to handle disrespect, and then they watch the reel. But if I say, here's how to make sure everybody respects you and you're best friends with everybody, nobody's going to watch that, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I've read some research, I don't know if it was real research, that like, negative thoughts and negative emotions feel like 2 or 3 times stronger than the positive ones. And when I started my marketing journey, this is literally what I always did. I always saw like, hey, people are like, they are like using the positive sentence or the end goal. And I always focused on like the opposite, right? Nowadays, you cannot do that with policy anymore. But like, if you start with like, do you have a burnout? More people would click and watch than if you would just ask them like, hey, do you want to feel good and energetic?
Exactly.
So it's funny.
People want to avoid pain.
Yeah, and I think just the emotion it's more intense. You just feel it a lot more, and then you keep watching, right? It's more urgency, and yeah, that's interesting. So now you really look for. So you have kind of like 2 steps, I guess. You look for like just topics that you want to talk about, and then the hooks. Is that something that's kind of also like happening subconsciously, or is that like you sit yourself down and you write down ideas, or what's your process there?
No, I'm not a natural marketer at all. And it's something that I had to learn.
Yeah.
It's something that I am constantly researching. I do quite a bit of research into how to create good hooks, how to create reels that are valuable as well. So, which is something we can talk about as well, like the longevity of watch time. But for the hook, I use ChatGPT for ideas as well.
Yeah.
Not literally tell me what to talk about, but hey, I want to talk about how to gain respect socially speaking, how to gain an executive presence. What are 10 strong hooks? It gives me 10 hooks. This is a cheat code, by the way. If nobody's using ChatGPT for hooks, what are you doing? You're just going to be left behind, honestly. At this point, it's a given.
Yeah.
At this point, it's literally a given. I do that and I might get 10 hooks. If I think they're too soft, make it more provocative. And then it becomes more provocative.
Yeah.
And then for those 10, maybe there's 2 or 3 that I'd like, and then I'll make a video about it.
Yeah, that's definitely a good hack. And little other hacks you can even be like, hey, it's 6 out of 10 now. Make it like 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. They can really turn it up.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's what I do, because sometimes I don't know if it's ever too extreme for you, but sometimes it also can be too much. But I like to push the boundary of too much, because then you take one step back, and then you're like really at that beautiful point where it's kind of shocking people. And
yeah, it's all in the prompts.
Yes, yeah. But anyways, that's the hooks. Then what are you doing in the rest of the video to kind of keep the engagement? You mentioned pauses. Any other? I would say tactics, communication tactics that you're using.
Cool.
Both verbal and non-verbal, of course.
For what, sorry?
I said both verbal and non-verbal. Like
verbal and non-verbal.
Yeah.
Something else that I forgot to mention as part of the warm-up, which I do from time to time, is do vocal warm-ups. So if you just type into YouTube, I have a video that I give to my clients, and I think it's on my Instagram. If they want it for free, if they just DM me vocal training, I'm pretty sure they'll get a vocal training that I give to my clients. But regardless, you can even find one on YouTube if you type vocal warm-up for singing. For singers, there's 10-minute videos, 15-minute videos of a singer or like a vocal coach just teaching you how to warm up your vocal cords and your tongue and your mouth so you can be very articulate, so you can have a nice resonance and your voice is vibrating and you're articulate and clear. Do that before the video as well, because when you're recording the video, you want to be very clear in the way that you speak. And you want to be charismatic as well. How do you do that? Have facial expressions. Use gestures, the way that I'm doing now as I'm talking a little bit. And vary your tonality. Vary the pitch and pace. For example, maybe you can lower your voice a little bit. And then you're going to make a point. And then you're going to gesture like this as well. You're speaking a little bit more. Maybe you become a little bit louder during a point in the video. And then you slow down. And then you chill a little bit. Because if you're just using one pace and one pitch throughout the whole video, people are going to get bored.
Yeah.
This is the same rule when you're telling a story in real life. It's just, again, 10% more animated on video, because on video, you're competing with the algorithm. What I mean by that is if somebody's bored, they're going to swipe away within
Yeah.
in probably 3 seconds, to be honest. So you have 3 seconds to really make a good impression. And you can do that by your hook, not only with what you say, but visually as well. For example, I notice videos where I say, "Come here, let me tell you something," or "Here's what to do," and I'm a little bit extra animated, more than I normally am, because I'm an introvert actually. So it takes some energy for me to do that. If I do that a little bit more than I'm even comfortable with, it has a better result. Next, during the video, I would make sure that I'm just as present as possible. And if anything comes to my mind that I want to say, I'm going to say it. If anything comes to my mind during the video, I might say it. For example, I might say something like, yeah, and also actually this point as well, I just realized. I might say that. And how authentic is that? It's
Yeah.
completely
Yeah.
authentic, right? And people like that. People appreciate it. And to wrap it up, at the end, I've been saying this one thing for the past year, and it's 100% helped me with gaining views, saves, and followers. And that is save this and follow for more. It sounds so simple, but the moment I started saying save this and follow for more, I
Yeah.
started to get followers.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think you have a really bright future with just what you mentioned. Like, you're really authentic, and in the age of AI, that's becoming rare. So that's I'm really curious to see how everything is.
Let me tell you something about that actually. So you know how we were talking about not editing the videos and chopping them up?
Yeah,
I tried that with an editor that I had who would add AI clips and crazy music and make the videos super short and no pauses whatsoever. I
yeah,
started to get comments from my loyal followers, multiple comments saying, "Shako, I prefer your old school minimalistic videos. This feels overproduced."
yeah,
Everything's overproduced these days.
yeah, yeah. That's the nice difference between sophisticated audience and TikTok brain audience. There's a big difference
Brain
there.
rot
Both
audience.
work, both you can make money off, but there's a difference in what they like to consume.
It's true.
All right, we kind of analyzed your whole social media strategy. Let's take back a step and kind of go through your business journey, because you started 5 years ago. When you started, you did a bunch of sales. You mentioned you're an introvert, started getting into sales, worked at a bunch of big companies, I think, as well, right?
It worked in different roles, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And what was what planted the seed, or what got you started with social media and starting your own communication business?
Going from social anxiety, being very socially awkward growing up, getting to the point where I became very successful in different roles that I had, sales and marketing.
Yeah,
The last job that I had, I started off as a business development manager, basically in sales, and then into accounts management.
yeah,
At that point, I was befriending my clients who were CEOs, directors, deans of universities, things like this. And I took a step back and I asked myself, how did I get into this position where I have a solid social circle now, very good job, safe, secure, without a degree because I dropped out of university? It was because of my communication skills. So at that point, I asked myself, actually, a friend asked me over coffee. He said, "Shako, if you could do anything, what would you do?" I said, "I would be a social dynamics coach or a communication coach." He said, "So that's a dream?" I said, "Yeah, that would be a dream come true." He said, "What's stopping you?" I said, "I don't know. Don't you need to study psychology?" He said, "No, you can just be a coach." He goes, "Do you know what to do? Do you know the process?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Do you love it?" I said, "Absolutely." He said, "Do you have the experience?" I said, "Yes, of course." So then you can coach people. Literally, I set a deadline of 3 months to quit my job, find a couple of clients just so I could sustain myself. After about 4 weeks, I found 2 clients. I quit my job a month later, 2 months after that promise I made to myself. Since then, I started posting consistently on Instagram, attracting the right people. And I left my hometown of Sydney so I could just really start fresh with my life. Went to Melbourne and just focused on creating content weekly. For the past 5 years, I'm proud to say I haven't missed a single week of content, not a single week. And that has paid off. So it was that, my friend. It was literally having a job, being a great communicator, and realizing my dream job would be to be a social dynamics coach. So I took the leap and I just went for it, man. I just went for it. As cheesy as it sounds, I followed my dreams.
Yeah.
I followed my heart. And I believe when somebody does that, what's going to stop you? What can possibly get in the way of you and your genuine dream? If you let anything get in the way, that's pathetic.
That's a strong hook. All right. So, Marketing Nerd podcast again. So I'm going to dissect it a little bit more. So you moved. I don't know if you moved from Melbourne to Sydney or from
Sydney to Melbourne.
Sydney to Melbourne. That was your first year.
Yep.
How did your first year look like? You were posting every week. You were like going to networking events. What was the whole shebang?
I was literally at home in my tiny apartment in Melbourne, 7 days a week, locked myself in work. The only time I would go out would be to go to the gym or to go for a long walk during lockdown, because this was in 2021.
Okay, yeah.
In Melbourne, there was a 6-month lockdown and the gyms were closed. So I would go for a long walk every day after work. I'd work from like 8 a.m. until about 10 p.m., literally every day. And what I did was I joined masterminds. I joined business coaching masterminds, and I learned a lot from them, learned so much from them. And it got to the point where I made more money than my job, actually, at that time. So literally in my first year, I made more money than the career that I had, which blew my mind. And I did one of my dreams, which was to go to Europe and live there. That was at the end of the first year.
Yeah.
You told me before the podcast that you're from Amsterdam. My dream was to move to actually, it's funny because on my vision board, I had Amsterdam, a canal in Amsterdam.
Mm.
It was a view of a canal from an apartment. And that's where I visualized myself living. And I would do my meditations. I ended up living on a canal in Copenhagen, actually, which looked exactly the same. It was interesting that I still ended up in Europe by a canal, but it just happened to be in Copenhagen. So that was another dream that I had. Did that. And the beauty of being a coach online is, and you understand this, you can go wherever you want.
Yeah.
You can work online. That was just a dream, man. And that's what I did. But I'm going on a tangent. The first year, to answer your question, it was just pure work.
You're just consuming all the business coaching that you had, creating a bunch of content, doing a bunch of research, just practicing doing content.
Exactly, man. Reels daily, YouTube videos, not as much YouTube videos actually, podcasts, workshops, free workshops. I hosted a bunch of free workshops that really built the muscle of presenting as well. And yeah, just pure student mentality on business and meditation. I meditated so much that year.
Guided meditations, or what did you do?
Yeah, it was Joe Dispenza 1 hour meditations on creating a new reality. Which
1 hour meditation a day.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Man, you were sleeping like 7 hours, 8 hours?
That's one thing that I prioritized actually, which I reminisce about now because it's not like that anymore. But I had a solid 8 hours of sleep every single night, and the meditations every morning.
An hour long.
An hour long.
That's
It's about a 54-minute meditation.
Mm.
It's a manifestation meditation, and I know that word manifestation is a buzzword, but
yeah,
it freaking works, man. And that was a big part of my routine.
I guess that also kind of kept you sane while working that much and COVID and lockdowns.
Yeah, it did keep me sane, man, because while I was doing it, something I didn't mention in that first year, I went through major anxiety to the point where I was facing some very, very dark emotions. And I found a personal mentor. His name's Ed Neeson. He's a therapist, actually, who guided me through the whole process. So it's interesting how starting my business, the first year of business, coincided with a personal transformation.
Yeah.
And my last boss that I had would always say that. He would say business is one of the most spiritual practices you can do.
Yeah.
And I never got it until I did it and you'd get this, you face uncertainty.
Yeah.
Right? And when you face uncertainty, how do you get through uncertainty?
I mean, by just doing.
By persevering, right?
Yeah.
By just doing it and by surrendering to it.
Yeah.
Allowing it to be there, like accepting it, right?
Yeah.
For example, if you have a big roadblock or a big challenge in your business, are you going to stop or are you just going to keep pushing through?
Yeah, just keep pushing. Yeah.
Not many people can do that, man. For you, you made it sound so obvious, which I really love. To me, it's like that as well. But for most people, it's not that obvious. For most people, they'll sit back and they'll start to analyze it. Oh, maybe I could do this, or maybe there's a plan B and this and that. But true entrepreneurship, you don't think like that. You just think, I mean, the hump's there. I'm going to get over it. It's going to be difficult. It's going to suck, but I'm going to do it anyway. That's a spiritual practice, man. Spiritual practice is persevering through
Yeah.
challenge, through hard times.
Interesting. I don't know if you want to go there or not, but what's really interesting because you became really successful also in corporate life. Then you became an entrepreneur, so you had a really good baseline, I would say, or like a foundation. What do you think still triggered the anxiety, as you mentioned it? Maybe this is too personal, and then
No,
we
I
can
don't
skip
mind.
it. I'm just
I appreciate it.
generally interested in how that happens.
Yeah, I think it was living alone by myself because before that I was living with family,
Mhm.
big family. I have 3 younger brothers, 2 parents, and I was living by myself, and I pretty much had cabin fever because we weren't allowed to go anywhere.
Yeah.
So when you're in the same place by yourself, you get into your thoughts. All my insecurities started to come to the surface because now I was talking about how to overcome those insecurities as well.
Yeah.
So maybe integrity started triggering me. It's like, Shaka, you still have things you need to deal with. For example, I started thinking a lot about not feeling good enough, especially with women. That's what really triggered it, to be honest. It was not feeling good enough for the opposite sex. It was fear of not being good enough, fear of rejection and being alone as well. And because I was alone in that apartment, I started to really feel what that felt like. It was like, hey, this is real. This is what it feels like to be alone. And I was alone. I was by myself. There was nobody there, man. I had one friend in Melbourne at the time. I had zero social life because I was so focused on just growing the business. And that's what triggered it. It was just facing my demons and what triggered them specifically to come to the surface. I think it was just dating and realizing that, because when you're in a relationship or when you're dating, the opposite sex will bring your biggest insecurities to the surface. You know what I mean?
Not as much, but
Not as much. Are you in a relationship?
Yes,
If
I've
you don't mind me
been for
asking.
a long time, and I've been always quite lucky in that
Nice.
area.
Nice.
So I don't.
I'm glad to hear that, brother.
Yeah.
Many people, not everybody, many people, when they go through an intimate relationship for the first time, if they weren't confident growing up, that relationship can trigger a lot of insecurities. And that's what would happen to me. So it brought to the surface a lot of the insecurities, a lot of the things that I was pretty much suppressing. And that ended up being a gift because as they come up, for example, fear of not being good enough, I meditated through it and I learned how to integrate it, which is another topic. And that just made me more confident. It made me more self-accepting,
Yeah.
which helped me in business as well because it helped my coaching. I became stronger for my clients.
That sounds like an insane first year.
It was, man.
Okay, so let's go into party Copenhagen modus. You started making enough money, I guess, where you felt confident to move around, go to Copenhagen. So how did the second year look like?
Second year was pure adventure because I was living in Europe. It was my
Yeah.
dream, man. It was my dream. I went to Amsterdam in 2019. At that time, I told myself I have to go back to Europe, especially Amsterdam, those regions. So I was just exploring. I was going to the cafes. I love cafes. I love jazz bars. I love cozy European vibe. They call it hygge in Denmark. I don't know if they have something similar.
We have we have something similar.
Something like cozy atmosphere.
Yeah, gezellig.
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 There you
Dutch,
go.
Yeah.
So it was a very cozy year for me. A lot of family visits around Europe as well. But business-wise, it was a bit complacent. I was still making reels weekly, but I wasn't pushing as much because by that time I had a handful of clients who were reoccurring in my program and they were working with me long term, 1 to 2 years.
So these are like managers or sales professionals, or what kind of people stay on long term?
So my clients are executives, CEOs, professionals, engineers, people who are high-level professionals.
Yeah.
Anything from a CEO even to high-level entrepreneurs and business owners.
And they just want to keep improving their communication skills, and they keep asking questions, and they just stay for 2-3 years then.
Yeah, so it's actually, the program is a 3-month training. It's a 3-month mentorship, but many clients want to stay after the 3 months because they just want consistent long-term training. And they just want to be part of it because we have a community as well with weekly workshops on Zoom as well as a group. So they just want to be part of it for a while. The longest client I have, I think, is 3 years.
That's a good sign.
Yeah. Many of them stay on board, actually. They just want to be part of the community.
Yeah, and kind of keep the sword sharp.
Yeah, and it makes sense to me. Like, personally, I love being part of a program. I love being part of a mentorship because it gives you that accountability, right? It's like every week I check in with my coach and I tell them where I'm at. They give me feedback. They keep me accountable. And you have the community aspect of it as well. Why would you not be part of it? When you invest in yourself, you're not only investing in the knowledge that you're gaining and the growth, but you're also investing in the network that you're now a part of. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that's the main reason why I invest in things nowadays. Yeah.
Exactly. I invested in a few business coaches here in Dubai. And like, for example, William Brown.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine. We started off just by working together. He was my business coach. I went to one of his masterminds, created a network. Now, some of his close friends are my close friends as well. People who I get coffee with, I get cigars with. We don't talk about business at all. I mean, we do because we're entrepreneurs, but we don't. It's not a coaching capacity.
Yes, yeah.
It's a friendly conversation that we have. So by me paying William that money for the coaching, I actually ended up creating a social circle out of that. My clients who are living in Dubai or even visit Dubai, when they come out with me and my friends. They come out with me and the other clients that we have. And think about the type of people who are willing to invest $5, $10, $15, $20,000 in a coaching program. That's somebody who thinks at another level. If you're sitting in a mastermind room I guarantee you've experienced this already, knowing you. If you're sitting at a networking table, which is costing 10 to 20 grand to sit at, the people sitting there, they're going to be successful. They're the kind of people that are willing to blow 20 grand. They're just investing it.
Yeah.
And the conversation is at another level as well.
100%.
So you can socialize your way into a high quality network. I don't know how we got to this, by the way, but it's fun. You can socialize your way into a high quality social circle, which I've done multiple times, but you can also pay your way into it. And I think that's the easiest way to do it.
You prefer that one?
It's a bit easier. It's not easier. It's more efficient.
Yeah.
It's much more efficient. Because if you want to do it the social way, you just have to go to a lot of networking events. And as an introvert, I'm lazy, man. I don't want to go to. I've done it. In fact, I did that in Copenhagen. I made best friends through networking events. I didn't do any mentorship at that time in that second year. But now, especially in a place like Dubai, I mean, why wouldn't you be a part of a mastermind?
Interesting. I've never done the normal networking route because I've always paid to get access to rooms. So what did it look like in Copenhagen? You were just going to general business, sales, marketing, self-development?
My coaching?
Events? No. So when you were in
for
Copenhagen for networking, yeah.
No, it was pretty social, man. Like, I wasn't focused on business that much.
Mm-hmm.
I was working full time, of course, but the networking events I would go to would be like, for example, it started off with a walking tour. Every city has.
I love those.
They're the best.
Even if you go on an expensive holiday, go on the free walking tour because it's
100% with a green umbrella. I did the free walking tour, met a couple of people that way, and then I went to a expats in Copenhagen networking night. I went there, and I went to another games night, and one more, which was like an ice bath. But it was in the ocean, actually, not bath. Like
the real ice bath.
Winter swimming, they call it, in the snow. Did that. And here's the thing. Most of them, I think it was like 3 out of 4 were boring.
Yeah.
And the people I met were not interesting. In fact, they were very dull. But at one of the events, a gentleman approached me. I usually approach people. A gentleman approached me. He said, "Hey, Shako, I just got to say, I really loved your introduction. Let's get a coffee. I'm new to Copenhagen as well." His name's Bino. He's a very good friend of mine to this day. We met 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
To this day, one of my best friends. And that's worth it. To me, going to a few networking events and finding that one diamond makes it worth it.
But you have to put in enough reps to get lucky, you know,
That's right, man.
with those,
Exactly.
unfortunately. All right, so that was year 2. A lot of networking, Copenhagen. What happened next? What got you to the next level in year 3?
After Copenhagen, I went through some personal challenges. So I went back to Australia and I became broke. I had to move back in with my parents. And I had a few $1,000s. It wasn't the lowest. I had a few $1,000s. So I thought to myself, I can't sit here living in my parents' house as much as I love them. I need to keep focusing on my business. I was tempted to get a job. A good friend of mine said, "Don't get a job, Shako. You're just going to play the safe game." All right. Let me go to Bali. It's close to Australia.
Yeah, I know. It's a funny place.
It's cheap. I don't like it, by the way. But I was there for a while. I'll tell you why. I went to Bali. A month after being in Bali, I saw a beautiful girl walk into a cafe when I was working on my laptop. She sits down next to me, and I was just struck, bro. Like, I was like head over heels the moment I saw her. I told myself I'm going to talk to this girl. She ended up being my wife. So, met her. We got together fairly quickly, actually, because we're both traditional, and we spoke about that. We said we want a family. I said, "What are you looking for? What do you want?" She said, "I want a family." I'm like, amazing, me too. She's Muslim, I'm Muslim. That helped a lot. And then I had to go back to Australia for an event, a family event, but she couldn't come because she's Russian. I went back to Australia. She went to Russia to wait for me so I could buy us tickets to meet again in Bali. When I was in Australia, I ran out of money. This is early last year. So I took a big dip in my business because of some personal challenges that happened right after Copenhagen.
Mm-hmm.
While I was in Australia, I have a screenshot on my phone. I had $14 in my bank account.
Oof, that's rough.
Bro, I had $14 in my bank account. Meanwhile, my wife is texting me, FaceTiming me every day. "When are we meeting in Bali? I miss you. Come on, let's go." I couldn't even tell her that I can't afford a plane ticket to go. I couldn't even tell her. So what I did, I put my freaking face to the ground, bro. Not only praying, but just focusing on getting out of that. Remember we spoke about entrepreneurship as a spiritual practice? This was the most spiritual practice for me. I didn't give up. Giving up wasn't even an option for me, bro. It wasn't even an option. At that point, I'm like, I'm just going to keep doing it. I'm not going to pity myself. I'm not going to cry about it. I'm just going to get up and focus every single day. And I did. And I ended up making about 15 grand. And then I bought tickets for us. We met in Indonesia again. And a month later, it was Ramadan last year. And I remember very specifically because that's when my videos went viral. While I was broke in the spare bedroom, I was still making reels and YouTube
I respect
videos.
that a lot.
Thank you, bro.
That's great.
Thank you. And I got to the point where one of my reels blew up and went viral, hundreds of thousands of followers. And I started to just get flooded with people who finally recognized and saw it's like, wow, we want to work with this guy. And since then, man, it's only gone up and up. Since last year, now we have 10 employees. We have a coach. We're hiring a salesperson. We have an AI team. We have a setting team. And it's just, now I'm living in Dubai with my wife. So praise be to God, man. It's been incredible.
What made you want to move to Dubai? I guess easy for both of you to get a
That's a big one.
visa, residence.
That was a big reason, but I also really wanted to come to Dubai just for the energy, for the environment, the network, meeting people such as yourself, and some of my mentors and people that I was watching online, like Will Brown, for example, were in Dubai. And also, it was just easier with the visa and business setup.
Yeah.
For us, setting up the business was so quick, man. So quick. And because she's Russian, easy for her to get the visa here as well. And plus, we both love traveling. Australia is very far from everything.
Yeah.
So, as you know, I went to Vienna recently. We went to Montenegro for New Year's. We travel regularly. And it's just much, much easier when you're in Dubai.
So we were talking about your Instagram. So let's take a step back. You moved to Dubai. That's all cool, but I want to know exactly what you did. Before, you were not going viral, so I guess you were below 100K followers. And then you started like blowing up, you 200, 300K followers. And I guess at that point, it became too much for you to handle. And you need alone. Yeah. So what was the first step? First, you blew up. You were still closing people for the same offer. Did you change offers? Like, what did you do?
Yeah, it was pretty much the same offer. So what I did really well before I blew up was I had my sales funnel set already. I had my client program already established. The course was full. It was pretty much ready to go. So it was all there.
Yeah.
The only thing was I couldn't handle all the management, all the admin tasks, all the onboarding.
The volume, yeah.
Yeah, all the volume, and eventually even all the coaching, which is why I ended up hiring Daniel, our head coach, as well. So learning how to delegate and build and structure a team was a big part of the next step for me. And that's been probably the biggest focus over the past, I would say, 6 to 7 months. It started off with hiring an assistant who I'm really lucky. She ended up being like absolute superstar, which is so lucky because there's a lot of trash out there, to be honest, bro. Like when people apply for jobs, there's a lot of people who are just time wasters.
There's a lot of normal people out there, let's put it that way, and you're looking for an extraordinary human being.
Not even a lot of normal. There's a lot of people that just don't know how to listen. I have very
that's
high
normal.
standards.
That's normal.
That's the normal.
Yeah.
That's the normal, unfortunately. And when it comes to somebody like me who is in my communication, there's two sides of me when it comes to business and regular communication. When it comes to business, that's when I'm a perfectionist. That's when I'm a bit of a Steve Jobs type tyrant. Not tyrant, but my team knows this. Like I'm a perfectionist. Like my reels, if one caption is off, I lose my mind. Not in the way where I become abusive. Absolutely not. But obviously, that's not the same approach I would have in communication. So I want to make that clear to the audience.
I mean,
there's
like
nuances.
one subtitle that's wrong or off could totally kill your reach and your business. So it's like
pretty
important.
It affects the brand. It affects the professionalism. I want to make sure we're professional. I want to make sure that everything's literally on point. And that's how you make a great product anyway. That's how you make a great marketing platform. Not platform, marketing face and presence. So there's that. And our admin assistant ended up turning into a manager. She got promoted. And now we have the editing team and we have the sales team, which we just onboarded. And we have the AI team that we're utilizing as well. And the coaching side of things. So I can still do what I'm doing, but now it's done more efficiently because I'm not distracted from my clients because I'm focusing on sending these emails. The team is taking care of that. I'm not distracted from the most important thing, which is my clients and my content, because I'm focusing too much on posting the content. The team's doing that.
Yeah.
I'd say the two most important activities in my business is literally creating content, because that's how people find me as well. That's how I share my gift, to be honest. Even on a more of a philosophical note, apart from attracting clients, I love sharing my message. Even things like this, I really enjoy. Genuinely, just personally enjoy. So content, extremely important, and client results. It's those two things in no particular order. Those two things are the most important thing because it gets the client's results and it gets me paid at the same time. I want to just focus on those two things. Everything else I'm trying to delegate.
Yeah.
Not trying, I am delegating. And that's the next big step.
Yeah.
as I've been doing.
Yeah, and off camera before we start recording, you talked about that for your next milestone in terms of finances. It's not even for yourself, but more for the sales guys. So right now you have a sales consultant that you're training, guiding.
We're just onboarding, just
Oh,
started.
okay. Oh, it just started. Okay.
Yeah.
Not too much to go for there yet. Curious to see how that goes in a year from now. How many sales guys you have that are closing 100K a month.
Yeah.
But, all right. And in terms of your service delivery, client success, do you have like multiple programs, or are you just selling one program?
We have one main program, which is called Diamond Eye, which is a 3-month mentorship on executive communication skills. Under that, there's multiple things that they get. So they get a mastermind, they get one-to-one calls, etc. But apart from Diamond Eye, there's one other offer, which is just a purely one-to-one private coaching offer, which is for women, because the mastermind is just men only.
Yeah.
Because they get one-to-one coaching as well. But for the women, there's no mastermind group. It's just one-to-one coaching. So it's basically 2 offers.
So you are still doing quite some one-on-one.
Yeah, I do plenty of one-to-one, but the price for that has been going up more and more.
So do you also have like a group coaching program now or no?
Yeah, there's also, so for the Diamond Eye, there's the option to either work with myself, with our head coach, or group only.
Yeah, and then the price points, of course, go
Yeah,
down or up depending
exactly.
on which direction you go.
Exactly.
Got it. So you just mentioned your sales funnel. What's going on there? It's like mainly people sending you DMs, then you send them some videos, and then they join a call, or like what kind of funnel did you set up?
Yeah, cool. So I love talking about this, man. Nobody ever asked me these.
No, that's why I'm here,
questions. Yeah, I love it. I love it. So a couple of ways we get clients. First is inbound. This happens often. People message us saying, Shako, interested in working with you. What does it look like? Amazing. At that point, let's hop on a call.
Yeah.
Get on the call, talk about the program. They join the program often. But the majority of clients are people who engage with our content, especially if I have a CTA, for example. We're looking for some executives to work with on their executive presence. If this is you, DM us or comment executive presence or communication skills. And then that triggers a chat in the DMs. And once we're in the DMs, we book a call with them. And when we book a call, after we book a call, we send them videos, which is a VSL explaining our program, explaining who we help, how we help them. And therefore, they're already warmed up before that call.
Yeah.
And on the call, it's about 45 to 60 minutes. It's a discovery call, basically.
Got it. So everything is going through DMs, no direct bookings. Everybody has to DM you first.
Yeah. I had a period late last year, where many people were booking calls through an ad that I had, which was a retargeting ad to my followers.
Yeah.
It was a triage call. It's like, hey guys, if you want to talk to me personally regarding communication skills, book a free 10-minute call with me below. I booked a lot. For some reason in January, that went flat. Like barely any calls booked. Maybe because we just exhausted the audience.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm thinking of testing some new creative for that. I did once already, didn't work. So I don't know exactly what it is.
Yeah, you have to create a bunch of creatives to crack the code again.
I think that's what it is, actually.
Yeah,
You might be right.
Yeah, that's a lot of work if they have seen you already.
Yeah, but we also have email marketing. We send 3 newsletters every single week. That gets us some calls booked frequently as well. Actually, not that frequently, but it does a few times a month. But most of it is just through the DMs.
All right, got it. So you mainly get your sales through DMs. Can you walk me through the workflow? Like, how does it work? They send you a DM. What happens?
So I create a free resource, for example, a cheat sheet for body language.
Yeah.
And then I say, if you want this cheat sheet, comment cheat sheet under this post or reply to this story.
Yeah.
They comment, and then ManyChat automatically sends them a question, and then they get sent that resource through AI. So it's all automated. And once that happens, then we send them a message saying, hey, by the way, what drew you to this type of content? Is this something you want to improve? We have a bit of a chat in the DMs, and then we book a call.
Got it. And do you like tell them the price point before they join the call, or how does that work?
No, because we have different price points, as I mentioned. And plus, I mean, anybody in sales and marketing knows that anytime you drop a price, no matter how expensive or how cheap it is before a call, it's very, very hard to get any clients at that point, because People don't understand the value.
Yeah, value only cost.
Yeah,
But are you kind of like checking whether they have a good job or something?
we
Or
qualify them.
yeah.
Definitely. We check where they're from, where
Mhm.
they're living, which country, what their profession is. And we also ask them if they're willing to invest in themselves.
Got it. And if that's a yes, then they can jump on a call.
Yeah, so most of our calls are pretty qualified. A lot of them are professionals.
Yeah, got it. I mean, with the subjects you were talking about, that kind of makes sense, right?
Yeah, exactly. In fact, all of them are professionals now that I think about it, because anybody who isn't, we disqualify them.
Got it. Got it. And you just mentioned you use a freebie to get them to send you a DM. Some people are literally randomly adding a freebie everywhere. Are you always creating a certain freebie for a certain post, or are you also sometimes not doing the freebies, or like what's the best practice there for you?
We have plenty of resources. So, for example, in our program, we have many little videos or PDFs that we give to clients that we're happy to share as well, because it's not the full program, it's just like one PDF or a short video. But we even use YouTube videos. Like, I make a YouTube video. Literally last week, I made a podcast about how to be more authentic when you're communicating. And the story that I made was comment authenticity, and then I'll send you the video. And it created the same workflow. So that freebie was literally just a podcast, but
Yeah.
people want it anyway.
Yeah.
So there you
You
go.
try to sprinkle in as many CTAs and freebies as possible.
Yeah, but I don't want to overdo it either, because I noticed when I did too many, I think 3 CTAs in 1 week, which sounds normal. A lot of business coaches will tell you three is fine.
Yeah.
We noticed a big drop in views. Big.
All right. Interesting. All right. Clear. I think by now we have dissected your whole business and your whole path. So let's look a little bit into the future. Like, what are your plans for this year? What do you want to achieve with the business? What do you want to do?
This year, I want to have a sales team. So that means minimum 2 salespeople, closing 200K per month USD. And I want to hire 1 more coach as well. And I want to work with fewer and fewer clients, because I like giving my time to my clients. So that means I'm going to be charging much, much more to work with me one-to-one. And the majority of clients who come in, maybe like 80 or 90%, work with our executive coaches that we have, who are proper world-class coaches as well. But if somebody wants to work with me, it'll be premium. So it'll be that, the sales people as well. And also I want to do, actually I'll stick to business. I was going to add some personal ones, including travel. But for business, what else? I want to continue my podcast. I want to blow up on YouTube, to be honest. I want to crack YouTube. I've done Instagram and TikTok as well. I have like 50K followers on TikTok, which I don't really utilize. But I want to get at least 10 to 20,000, let's say 20,000 subscribers on YouTube, just because it's more evergreen, it's more sustainable, I believe, than Instagram Reel, which gets forgotten after 2 days. After 1 day, it gets forgotten.
Yeah.
And business-wise, what else? It's just growing the team and automating and delegating as much as I can. Doing more of conversations like this as well. But the big goal is hiring another coach and hiring more salespeople.
How do you hire the right coach? Because you have quite high standards, like you're a perfectionist, like you just mentioned. What is your process there? Like, you do a bunch of interviews?
Yeah, I like to test people, man. The way that I've hired my team at the moment, I've just tested them. For example, with our coach Daniel right now, first of all, referrals are always good. And he was a referral. With him, I told him to send me a voice note. He sends me the voice note. I'm like, cool, can you send me a video now? He sends me the video. Why? I'm not looking for technical skills in the video. I'm looking for a vibe. I'm looking how confident is he? How grounded is he? Can he teach my clients who are executives? Yeah, this guy's pretty grounded. Cool. Let's get on a call, on an interview. Let's have a chat. Let me disagree with him a little bit, see how he handles that. Just play with him a little bit, test him a little bit. He stood his ground. This guy's good. Awesome. Let's go take on 1 client. Let's see how that goes. And he ended up just taking it on board, and doing really well, to the point where some clients prefer to work with him instead of me now, which is a good sign.
Yeah, that's great.
Very good sign, man. I want to hire people smarter than me. But I very much do that. Like, we're looking for an assistant at the moment for my manager. And I do the final round interview, just a quick 20-minute one to make sure that they're good. I interviewed this lady the other week. I'm not going to share her name, obviously. And my manager, who's amazing at everything she does, I don't know how she let this lady get to the final interview, because I got to the interview and I'm asking her questions and she wasn't answering my question directly. She wasn't looking at the computer half the time. And when I asked her a question about something that she didn't know, she tried to act like she knew instead of just saying, I don't know, which I much rather her say.
Yeah.
At that point, I don't care what experience you have. I don't care how good you are with GHO, brother. Like, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
I told Dan, our manager, I said, don't ever do that again. I said, it's not just about her experience. How intelligent is she? I look for intelligence. When I notice intelligence in somebody, I'm much more confident in hiring them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a dangerous one if you not dare to say anything when you don't know. That's
Exactly.
that's tricky.
That means that the danger in that is if they do something wrong, they're not going to tell you.
Yeah, that's the worst. And you mentioned with Daniel, you're like arguing a little bit with him. My favorite question to ask a salesperson that I'm not sure about is like, yeah, so thanks for your time. At this point, I'm not really sure if you're a right fit for a company. Because if they're like, okay, bye, then you know it's not a salesperson because he's not objection handling, right? So that's my way of like, arguing a little bit or giving them a little bit of shit. What kind of questions or like things do you do to figure out if someone can stand their ground and like have their own opinion?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'll be completely honest with you, man. I don't have lines or scripts. It's usually just what I feel in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But Daniel was a coach, not a salesperson.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And for him, what was it? I think I was giving him feedback about his video. I said you should. I would encourage you to be more direct and more assertive, because what you were saying, this came across as pretty weak, or something like that. I can't even remember, to be honest. But I'm just pushing back on their beliefs, just by saying, okay, so what do you believe is the most important trait in a salesperson? They'll say X, Y, and Z. I'm like, really? Why do you think so? That's interesting. And just showing them that I'm not completely approving of what they're saying. By the way, it sounds like you're acting, but this isn't something I would encourage anybody to do outside of an interview process.
Yeah.
Because in an interview process, you can play with people a little bit, and you should. Why? Because you're testing them to see if they'll crack under pressure. And that's very important. So if somebody can stand their ground and be confident and grounded and remain in control in an interview, that says a lot about the person.
Yeah, and it's the only way to figure out whether they know how to think or not, because they get all the basic questions all the time. So if you don't push back or ask something different or unique, you will never know whether, these are just lines that they rehearsed or they can actually come up with their own thoughts.
And actually, it came to mind one specific question that I like to ask people is I give them a scenario and I ask them how they would figure it out. For example, I said to this assistant that I was interviewing, and I said something similar to the salesperson. I said, imagine I'm on holiday and my phone's off, and your manager, Dan, is also on holiday and you can't contact us. And a very angry client emails asking for a refund. How would you handle it? I learned so much about this woman, by the way she answered this, because she said, oh, I'll try to contact you.
The phone's off.
I said, I'm on holiday, brother. Deal with it. I didn't say that to her, but I said, okay, but what if you can't reach me? And she said, I'll reply in a professional way and tell them that you're on holiday.
Yeah. That's interesting.
It's like, so you wouldn't ask them why they want a refund, why they're upset? You wouldn't try to solve the problem?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I would do. I would just call them, ask them why, and I'd be like, hey, listen, like, let's give it another 7 days. If you still want the refund in 7 days, then, maybe then you can still get it. Like,
something.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, that means they cannot really think outside of the box.
Yeah, well, that's the idea. You're
Yeah.
when you're asking them a situational question like that, how would they handle it? You're seeing their creative thinking at work.
I like that question a lot because you can do that for customer support, you can do it for a salesperson, you can do it for a coach.
Yeah,
Because the refund is one of those if you're into coaching and consulting.
yeah,
Ones that always hurts and it's quite important and shows a lot. Oh, that's interesting. That's a good one.
yeah.
I'm gonna write that one, like
Go
note
for
that
it.
one down after.
Yeah, yeah, go for it.
That's great. All right, good. So we know your goals. Now this is more like a personal question, still business related. You moved to Dubai, I guess because your mentor was here. That kind of opened the door a little bit for you. How did you feel like the whole networking thing was in Dubai?
I didn't come here because my mentor was here.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't working with Will at the time,
Okay.
but that was just one thing that motivated me a little bit more.
Yeah.
It was mainly just the country, the tax system, the fact that it's an Islamic country as well was a big plus. But networking here has been unlike anywhere in the world. I don't know if you have this experience as well, because I lived in Europe, I lived in Australia. You can network in Europe and in Australia, but it's definitely more difficult because you don't have the same level of entrepreneurial minded people. The 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 concentration of entrepreneurs in Dubai is unlike anywhere else. If you go to any cafe, unless you're in like the heart of the corporate district, if you go to most cafes in Marina, Dubai Hills, Maidan, wherever it is, JLT, you're going to meet entrepreneurs everywhere. Influencers, entrepreneurs, coaches, consultants. They're just everywhere. And when you go to networking events, actually, not just networking events, let's say you're friends with one entrepreneur here in Dubai. Imagine you and I invite you out to lunch. If we go to lunch with my friends are going to be very, very successful entrepreneurs. And you're going to connect with them. You're going to meet them. You'll connect on Instagram, on WhatsApp. And whoever you click with, you'll probably end up being friends with as well because you met them through me.
Yeah.
And they'll trust you more because they met you through me and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
That has happened to me so many times. So many times where I'll go to a dinner or cigars with a friend and I meet some friends through him and then I become very good friends with them. And then I invite them out to a dinner I'm hosting and then they become friends and they connect. So once you know one entrepreneur, one successful person, it just opens the doors and makes it effortless to meet people. Even apart from that, when you do go to different networking events, when you meet people there, they're very open compared to the rest of the world. I've noticed very open to collaborating. You do have to be careful as well, though, because there are some instances where you go to an event and you realize the person knows you have money or they know you have followers and they just want to ask you a bunch of questions or take advantage of those resources that you have. So you do, and you can get that feeling. It's a vibe as well. You can tell if somebody's not genuinely having a conversation with you, they just want something from you. So you do have to be a little bit careful of that as well. I think it's easy to get a bit excited in Dubai. You don't want to trust people too quickly, too easily, because as collaborative as it is, not everybody has your best intention at heart. Like I've noticed already, I've been here 7 months. I've noticed already a couple of things coming back to me about hearing people talking about me, for example, which sounds so ridiculous to say even on this podcast because that's something that you hear about in high school, you know? It's like, oh, so-and-so was talking about you. When I heard that, I'm like, pretty childish. I don't care. They said, what do you think about that, Shako? I'm like, I don't give a shit. I don't care. Not interested in that. But you do also, this is also kind of the dark side. You do also have a lot of those young entrepreneurs,
Dropshippers, e-commerce guys,
crypto guys,
yeah.
OnlyFans managers.
Yeah.
Not a fan of that at all, man. But to each their own. Like, I'm not judging them. They do whatever they want. So that's the dark side of it. But the plus side heavily outshines majorly the negative side because the people that you meet, even the Emiratis, man, they're lovely people. When you meet the locals here, they're very, very lovely. And they seem happy to meet foreigners as well.
Yeah.
So And there's no lack of networking opportunities in Dubai. If you want it, you'll find it.
Yeah, I felt like people are okay with, taking a shot, like a risk, like they easily invite you somewhere, even if they don't know you too well. I guess also like because people are, coming and going that often, people are more used to it. That's like I've never seen it anywhere before, where it's like you just know someone for 5 minutes, and like, oh, by the way, I'm going here, or like get invited to a polo match, or just that kind of stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
That happens here,
Yeah.
They're not afraid to take risks, which I think is also a little bit part of the entrepreneurial DNA.
Exactly.
They are not worried about that.
Yeah,
All
that's
right,
true.
all right. And you still want to stay here, build the network, stay here for a couple of years, and
Yeah, I
on a
can.
personal side, I mean, yeah,
I can see. We just moved into a house with my wife. We don't have any children yet, but we did that because we want to have children
yeah,
eventually in about a year, God willing. Ideally, I'd like to have a base here in Dubai and a base somewhere in Europe. I'm trying to get my parents out here as well. We're trying to convince them to come because they're still in Sydney. But I started driving in Dubai. I'll tell you how this is relevant. Literally today, because I rented a car for the first time, I've been taking taxis everywhere.
mm,
Today, drove to this podcast for the first time in the podcast before this as well. And as I was driving, I felt like, I really like this city. Like, it's just so comfortable, so easy to do anything. And I can see myself living here long term.
mm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I guess Sydney is also pretty relaxed if you're not an entrepreneur and you're living your life.
Have you been to Sydney?
I mean, that's the stories I hear. You know what I mean? That
Yeah,
it's not bad weather. There's a bunch of nature close and driving distance.
there's that. There are pockets of Sydney around the outskirts which are very relaxed and laid back. But the majority of Sydney, like 90% of it, is hectic.
Mm.
It's a very fast paced city, very crazy. It's getting overpopulated as well. It doesn't sound like that much. It's about 6 million people, but it feels crowded when you're there. This is my experience growing up there. But then again, when you grow up somewhere, you tend to have a certain bias towards it as
Yeah,
well.
100%.
Like from I know people from Netherlands who tell me that, Dutch people are cold. But then when I go there, they don't seem cold to me at all. They're like very warm. I've heard the same thing about Swedish people and Danish people from Swedish and Danish people. But then I go there with fresh perspective and it's different.
It's interesting that they call Dutch people cold. I think they're not. I mean, they're direct and they're open-minded, but that's also a big bias that you mentioned, because people are always like, "Oh yeah, I love Dutch people. They're so entrepreneurial. They're so open-minded." I'm like, "Yeah, that's the ones you are meeting." But when you're in a real city, right, not speaking English in some smaller city, then it's a little bit different. But I would definitely not call Dutch people cold.
I wouldn't either.
So
That's the thing.
yeah,
That's the thing. I wouldn't either. So my point is, I could be completely wrong.
yeah,
That's my point.
yeah,
You go to Sydney, maybe you will find it to be really relaxed compared to wherever else. Maybe compared to Dubai.
yeah. Exactly. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, but the main reason I wouldn't live there is there's not as much of an entrepreneurial
Yeah.
spirit. It's more corporate. It's definitely more corporate. That, and plus it's just too far from everything. It's too far from Europe, too far from the Middle East. Traveling anywhere is just very, very difficult. I'll definitely see myself staying here long term.
Yeah, yeah, as an entrepreneur, I get it. I was just curious how you're gonna pitch/sell your parents, because it seems quite
Oh, that's
relaxed.
easy.
Yeah, it's easy.
I'll tell them we're gonna have children. You should be around the children. They'll love that. That's it.
That's cool. That's cool. All right, this part we might cut out if we don't get any answers or if it's too awkward. But after observing me for like I think we're like at an hour now, is there any feedback that you have for me in terms of body language or communication to increase the podcast, to improve the podcast? We can skip it if you don't want it, or if I find it awkward. But I'm just curious. If there's anything that you noticed about me that I could improve on.
That is so cool. I haven't had anybody ask me that on a podcast before. I like that. I respect that a lot. Yeah, you suck. No, I'm kidding. You don't. You hold yourself with dignity. I noticed the way you dressed immediately when I met you. You have the nice polo shirt, not the polo shirt, the Ralph Lauren shirt. I mean, you have the nice watch. You're well groomed. And I mentioned this. It's not even your body language because it makes a difference when you meet somebody for the first time. Your first impression is how they dress, how they carry themselves. You carry yourself with dignity, very professionally. You are a little bit stiff in your energy, though. Like I noticed some stiffness in your jaw.
In the jaws, yeah.
Yeah, and you mentioned that as well, so you're self-aware about it.
A little bit, yeah.
You have a great smile when you allow it to come as well. I think that stiffness, if you train yourself to relax it a little bit, just like that, and breathe deep, relax your shoulders and your jaw, over time you'll find yourself unstifling, which is being a little bit looser as well. So you're the kind of guy, when you meet them, maybe they come across as a little bit reserved, but then they slowly start opening up as well. I think you could loosen that even more consciously. What I mean by consciously is if you choose to. I'm not saying you be open to every Tom, Dick, and Harry you meet, but if you just want to be generally a little bit looser in your energy, that starts with your physiology. Body language is fine, just a little bit stiff. I hope that helps.
Thanks for the feedback. I hope that's useful for all the podcast viewers and listeners as well. Thanks for having me. It was amazing, man.
Thanks for having me, brother. Much appreciated.
All right. 1.5 hours. That's a little bit longer than we normally go.
Yeah, cool. There you go.
That's good.